Man, drama in the wrestling community, we need it. As a community, we need it. We live for it. We thirst for it. We want to see it. Content creators on YouTube, they live off this shit. And they make a living off of all the drama in pro wrestling. Sometimes people in the community are fabricating drama. Sometimes the drama comes to those like in this story. The AEW women's locker room clearly has a problem. And I don't need to be there to understand that. I don't need to sit here every single week and tell you exactly what's going on. And I don't have any sources. I don't have any backup. I don't have anything coming out of what I do. You just feel it. You see it. You sense it. You see how things transpire on television. They tried to mask all these problems and they tried to hide a lot of this shit on their reality series. But the truth of the matter is, there is a problem in the AEW women's locker room, no matter if they want to tell you or not. This story should be getting more traction than it is. I don't know why it has not. Lufisto, an independent female performer in the industry, hints at backstage issues with AEW's women's division. Coming out of Dynamite, there's been a lot of renewed talk about how the AEW women's division has been booked. It's been booked like shit. Just look at what Tony Khan did for Wednesday coming up on Dynamite and the 200th episode of AEW Dynamite. He's booked Toni Storm defending the AEW Women's Championship against Hikaru Shida in a match on Wednesday because it looks good on paper and it sounds good to those who are in the business. It sounds good to the AEW fans. What does Hikaru Shida have to do with the AEW Women's Championship? I don't really understand why this match is being made when Shida has not been on television for weeks. What has she done to warrant an AEW Women's Championship match against Toni Storm? That's just one minor example. After Wednesday, we didn't need Taya and Britt Baker to have a shit show of a match for me to realize we need to book the women's division better in AEW. It all goes back over what we've seen for the last 4 years on AEW Dynamite. We don't need Britt and Taya to have a terrible match. You just realize after what we've been given over the last 4 years that something needs to change. Now people want to get in on the fun and claim that AEW needs to start booking their women's division right. But what is the problem? What is the problem? I'm going to go over what Lufisto said about the AEW women's locker room and the fact of the matter that she doesn't believe it's bad creative, that it's politicking backstage that has ruined the AEW women's division. The problems that she's raised comes after Britt Baker and Taya and their match on Wednesday. There was a camera that was focused on a sign in the crowd. A fan held up a sign that said, "Book the women's division better." I'll get to that in a second. Lufisto hinted on Twitter that there may be issues backstage with the women's roster that are unrelated to the booking. She says this, and I quote, "It's cute how people blame booking for a bad women's division. Talent with too much power. Talent just going at each other and denigrating each other. Talent trash talking potential employees so they never get in as soon as they walk in. It starts here. The one you called a fucking French-Canadian asshole." End quote. Now, Lufisto didn't mention anyone specifically, but she has wrestled on various independent promotions and would likely have friends in AEW as well. It's unclear what she is referring to, who she is referring to, but the women's division has been a very topical discussion throughout this week, coming out of Wednesday on social media, going into the weekend. We know Britt and Taya had an awful match. I don't give a shit who you are. I don't give a shit if you're listening to this and you're a professional wrestler and you do this for a living. I can sit here every single fucking week and tell you what is good and what is bad. I don't need fucking people coming at me for my opinion. Oh, well, you can't say this because you're not a professional wrestler. I don't need to step foot in a ring to know what a good match is and what a bad match is. What Taya and Britt Baker did on Wednesday night was fucking terrible. And I'm not going to sit here and fucking rag on it more than I already did. People have off nights. I know Britt is a lot better than what we were given on Wednesday night. I know Taya was a lot better than what we saw on Wednesday night. I mean, she had a great match on Collision. She had a great match on Collision. I don't even remember who she wrestled, but I remember it was a great match. So much I give a fuck about the women's division. She had a great match. She looked good. She did not look as bad as she was on Wednesday. People have off nights, the best of the best, no matter what genre or sport you're in, have off nights, whether you're a musician, a fucking sports figure, whether you are a regular Joe working a 9 to 5, you have off days. The best of the best have off nights. I get it. But then it's the criticism. AEW's women's locker room clearly, wrestlers in general, but the AEW women's locker room cannot handle criticism. I don't know what it is about that locker room. They think they're head and shoulders above everybody else. Let me tell you something. I don't need to fucking work there to know what's going on. There is small talk. There are chatterbugs backstage. There are trash talkers backstage. That locker room is fucking gate-kept by several women. And any outsiders are not welcome unless those gatekeepers allow you to walk through those doors. That's the way it is. How is that right? How is that wanting and asking for a better women's division? How is that building a better women's division? I don't really understand that logic. So after the match on Wednesday, Taya gets shit on social media. She has all these people talking shit about her on social media. If I could pull up a screenshot of the tweet, I'll include it in this. She says, and I quote, waking up to comments such as Taya is fat, disgusting, slow, untalented, loser, looks like a man, so on and so forth. I'm just a human being trying my best. Remember that next time, and hopefully you will never have to hear that type of stuff about yourself. Britt Baker also got criticism, and she was on the receiving end of criticism as well from several fans. One that was telling her to develop and go back to the Performance Center, or a Performance Center for AEW, which would be the Nightmare Factory. Go back to the Nightmare Factory so wrestlers like Britt Baker can improve their craft. She was horrible last night, and she wants to face the Queen, Charlotte Flair, one day. Please, LOL. Britt Baker responds and says, sorry, sis, I couldn't hear you over those DMD chants, but bullying looks just about as good on you as that heinous yellow dress. Now, I was told that Britt isn't a bully, and that Britt wants a better division, and that Britt is here and she wants what's best for the division, and she's a leader and this and that. Meanwhile, I look at this and I try and piece all of this together to see if it makes sense. If Britt is telling everybody that she's not what the fans interpret her as, and she had nothing to do with the Thunder Rosa situation, and she blamed everything on Thunder Rosa's camp and people on that side, and her camp is innocent, and they didn't do anything wrong, that they were not at the focus of the bullying. Meanwhile, we got Britt Baker right here, plain as day, bullying someone because they don't look good in a yellow dress and basically call them hideous. Kind of makes you second guess and think about what was going on with the entire Thunder Rosa situation. Who really bullied Thunder Rosa out of AEW? Who really put a sour dampening on Thunder Rosa's love for AEW and what happened in that women's division? I mean, it certainly adds up now, doesn't it? There's a problem in the AEW women's division, and it's people like Britt Baker. I'm not saying that it's Britt. I'm not. Because honestly, between me and you, and Jesse can attest to this because we've talked about this numerous times on Wednesday night, Britt Baker has actually been very good this year. I'm not calling her completely innocent. I'm not calling her completely guilty as well, but she was definitely a part of the fucking problem. But this year, she's kind of taken several steps back and has given that to Jamie Hayter before she got hurt. Now, Jamie Hayter is in Britt Baker's camp. We all know that. Would Britt do this for anybody else? Has Britt done this for anybody else in the division and built them up? The division seems to be revolving around the same names. Britt Baker, Jamie Hayter, Saraya, Toni Storm, Ruby Soho. I'm sure they're all in a clique together. Meanwhile, how many other women does AEW employ, and how many other women besides Willow Nightingale have been pushed on TV and made to look decent, have been given something decent on television? Not many. They have to employ 50 to 60 women, right? How many women does AEW employ, and how many of them do you see on television? I'm not talking about Ring of Honor, which is basically AEW Dark. How many of those women make it to television? Here's one for you. Here's a little nugget for you. If AEW cared about their women's division, why are they hiding their best female performer in the entire company on Ring of Honor, Athena? Don't you think if she was good enough, she'd be on fucking television? Why isn't Athena on fucking television right now in a major program? Why isn't she the AEW Women's Champion when she's doing the best work maybe in all of North America right now? You do realize what the reason is, right? Because if she's on AEW Dynamite, she already, on day one, is leagues better than every single woman on that roster. They don't want that. They will not allow that. She'll be on Dark for the rest of her AEW run. Or Ring of Honor, I should say. No difference. It's the same fucking thing. She'll be on Ring of Honor for the rest of her AEW run. Where's Chris Statlander? Well, she came back with a fucking sonic boom, didn't she? She won the TBS championship from one of the most heralded AEW title reigns of all time, right? Jade Cargill's bullshit fucking undefeated streak ended. One of the worst title reigns in the history of the business. One of the most unmemorable title reigns in the history of the business. Where's Chris Statlander after she won that? Absolutely nothing has been done with Chris Statlander and the TBS title. Why is that? Because Statlander is leagues above everybody else that's featured regularly on TV. They do not allow it. The proof is in the fucking pudding. Is Lufisto wrong in this? I don't think so. This is something that we caught on to very early. But again, I will give Britt Baker the benefit of the doubt. She's taken a few steps back and given that spotlight to Jamie Hayter, which, I mean, look at it how you want. Jamie is Britt's very good friend, and Jamie took the ball and ran with it. But it's not really new talent. It's just somebody that Britt actually deems well enough to earn that spot. Britt thinks so let's give it to Jamie. Jamie knows Britt very well. Let's give it to Jamie Hayter. Same thing with Toni Storm. They're all in the same clique. All in the same clique. I was told personally that they all laugh at what Jesse and I do and laugh at what Jesse and I say on Wednesday nights on the show. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching. But if you don't think that there's politicking backstage in AEW, you are sadly mistaken. All of this reeks of politics, and those are just two examples. Statlander and Athena are only two examples of what's going on in AEW. Is it mismanagement? Absolutely. Is it mismanagement? Yeah, I'd say so. But it happens in WWE as well. It happens over on the other side as well. Here's the thing, folks, and you might not want to hear it, and you might not like it. Women's wrestling is not a draw. It's not. You're not watching the show for women's wrestling. You're not watching Monday Night Raw, Friday Night SmackDown, AEW Dynamite, Rampage, Dark. You're not watching these shows for women's wrestling. I'm sorry, that's the truth of the matter. It doesn't draw. It doesn't. But the promoters and these major promotions don't do anything to aid women's wrestling, as it results in fucking geeks bringing signs to the shows. We want women's wrestling, book women's wrestling better, and blah, 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 blah. The revolution is a fucking farce. It's bogus. None of these women will ever give up their spot. Charlotte, Bianca, Becky, Alexa when she was there. Look at all of the women that you see regularly on WWE television. Do you see WWE investing in anybody else not named any of those women? How many women does WWE employ have we seen on television that they're building up and giving us something new, fresh, and exciting? How many new stars have they made in their women's division? Zero. Shawn Michaels does a decent job on NXT, but that doesn't really translate to the main roster. If you do well on NXT, if they don't like you on the main roster, you ain't going anywhere. Tiffany Stratton will be successful. Cora Jade will be successful, but those are the chosen ones. Roxanne Perez will be successful. How many others on that roster are going to be successful and transition well to the main roster? Not many of them. You may do well on NXT, but that doesn't really mean anything for your success on the main roster. You'll do good there. If they don't like you on the main roster, you're as good as gone. How many women have failed? Xia Li failed. Shotzi failed. Lacey Evans failed. Dana Brooke had to go back to NXT after failing on the main roster, and she's still a failure on the main roster. How many? Tegan Knox failed. Piper Niven failed. Candice LeRae failed. Mia Yim failed. Shayna Baszler failed. Nikki Cross failed. The list goes on and on. The proof is in the number of women that are not being featured on TV. I don't understand how people don't grasp this. Same thing with AEW. How many different women have they employed? How many do they employ? How many of those women do you see on television? Those who make it to television have either politicked to get where they are and are fan favorites of management. Everybody else has been suppressed and held down. You might not want to hear it. Most of these major wrestling promotions don't really advocate for women's wrestling, even though they say they do. They need to push women's wrestling on TV because if they don't, there'd be a problem. That doesn't mean they want to. They push women's wrestling on TV and the women that you see on TV because they need to, not because they want to. Need and want are two completely different things. The women's revolution is bogus. It's a farce. WWE's women's revolution started with Sasha and Bayley, and it ended with Sasha and Bayley because those were the only two women that truly, really gave the revolution any meaning whatsoever. And they still do it to this day, Naomi included, Trinity included. These were the only women that gave that revolution any meaning at all. And when they did, and when they showed their love for the revolution and wanting to truly make a change, what happened? They were laughed about it, or they had people laughing in their face. People made fun of them about it. Fake stories went out about them having temper tantrums at WrestleMania, crying in the hallway. This and that. People turned their backs on Mercedes when she dropped the fucking tag team titles on Laurinaitis' desk because they were being mistreated in WWE. These women wanted nothing but a great division, and they were fucked over and laughed at because of it. Where did it get them? Where did it get them? Nowhere. Saraya comes over to AEW. Saraya comes over to AEW from WWE. You could say that she was one of the leaders, along with Sasha and Bayley, about the women's revolution, changing the way people perceive women's wrestling. What has she done for AEW that even warrants her being a leader for the women's revolution? As far as I'm concerned, she's kind of molded herself into that same fucking political camp on AEW Dynamite. Has any other woman benefited with Saraya being there? Has Saraya put over anybody on AEW television, whether it be physically in the ring or verbally on the microphone? What has she done there? What am I to look at when I look at Saraya's body of work? Has she made the AEW women's division better? The answer is no. She's had no impact on the women's division. The only impact Saraya has had has been Saraya's career. That was it. And the first person that Saraya feuds with, coinky dink, is Britt Baker. Did Britt Baker really need to be in a match with Saraya on AEW? You would think that somebody like that, with somebody that's held in high regard like that as a leader of the revolution, she'd want to come over and actually start a new revolution. We haven't seen anything close to that in AEW. Britt Baker goes right to the politicking, and right then and there, the biggest name that AEW signed for their entire division goes right to Britt Baker. Management is no help either. AEW management is no help either. The whole Outcast storyline is complete garbage. It never made sense from day one. We got an explanation about what they were doing here and why they were a group 3 months into their existence. And it came from Ruby Soho, who was the last woman to join the group. They didn't win the Owen. Toni Storm is the women's champion's done nothing with it. What is their reason for being? What is their reason for existing? Have they gotten anybody to the next level? They haven't gotten over as a group. They're a great group. It could work. Mismanagement's fucked them over. But what exactly are they doing? They've done nothing but churn their wheels over and over and over again. One moment you feel like all of this OG versus Outcast shit is leading to a blood and guts. Then injuries happen. Then the excuses come. And then everything is dropped. Why? You don't think we as fans are frustrated? You don't think we as fans see what happened? You don't think we saw where this was all going? No, but it's creative. Lufisto said it's politicking. Some people want to think it's politicking. Some people want to think it's creative. I do think it's politicking, and I do think it's a little bit of creative as well, because the people that are running the fucking ship there don't know what the fuck they're doing. You can't be making matches for the sake of making matches and calling it, yeah, we want a revolution. We love women's wrestling. Doesn't work that way. You want the division and you want the ladies to thrive. They're going to need something that is long-term, that's going to generate interest on a consistent weekly basis. Not this fucking, let me throw this shit at the wall and see if it sticks bullshit mentality that we see with AEW on a weekly basis. I don't give a shit about that, and I'm going to be quick to call that out more than anything else. We, the fans, don't deserve it, and that locker room and the women's division doesn't deserve it. Stop using the same fucking names every single week and give someone else a chance. Put as much effort as you do into the top ladies. Give that effort to the bottom of the barrel and build some ladies up. It's the same thing in WWE. The wheels go round and round. The politicking has now become a very, very top priority as a sole reason as to why shit is fucking sinking in both the WWE and AEW women's divisions. The top of those divisions do not want to see anyone else come up from underneath them because they are afraid of losing their spot to someone potentially better than them. Then we, the fans, get tired of seeing all these top ladies every single fucking week do absolutely the most mid shit you could possibly ask for on TV on a weekly basis, and then we are asked to fucking sit there and enjoy it when we all know it is fucking garbage. You don't think the fans are gonna grow tired of it? Then we criticize, and then they get angry at us, and this cycle is vicious, and it goes round and round. Something needs to be done. The revolution is bogus. The revolution in WWE is bogus. The revolution that was supposed to be in AEW is bogus. Until these companies smarten up and stop giving all this power to those backstage, we will never have another revolution ever again. Do you want to know why Triple H, Stephanie McMahon, and NXT Black and Gold succeeded at the Women's Revolution, started the Women's Revolution? Because everyone was on the same page. everyone was together. Everyone worked as a team. It didn't start with one and end with one. It started with one and it grew into an army of hungry women that love this business and love this sport and had the passion for growing something so beautiful that they would do anything to see it succeed. Now all you have in both companies and in both locker rooms are hungry, narcissistic, void of any criticism, politicking bitches who want to see the fucking company and its division burn. But as long as they're safe, it doesn't really matter what happens around them. As long as they have their spot and their paycheck and their spotlight, that's all that really matters to them. This is not a revolution. It's a fucking bogus piece of shit if I ever seen one. And me as a fan, I'm fucking tired of it, honestly. You want women's division? You want the women's revolution to thrive? You want the women's divisions of both WWE to be better? Stop the politicking. Stop giving the power to the fucking people that are there at the top and actually give a shit about what you're putting on television without a fucking need to put it on television. Want to put it on television. That's what we the fans fucking deserve, and that's what we want. That's going to make your women's division better. Anyway, guys, I'm getting out of here. Follow me on social media at JD from NY206, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Cameo. Please hit that subscribe button down below. Turn on the bell for notifications and go check out all the other videos that you might have missed on the channel. Plenty of it. There will be more coming this weekend. I may be live for NXT Great American Bash. We'll keep you posted on social media. Until then, guys, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Leave me a thumbs up and leave me a comment. How do we fix both WWE and AEW women's divisions? And let me know what you think of what I said here today in this very topical discussion about why women's wrestling right now in North America is at the bottom of the barrel. I'll see you guys later.